Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome back to Bufnagle, the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I am Rafe, and because it's a Tuesday, it's a podcast Tuesday, and that makes it a great day to be doing a podcast with you. Because of you, the world's greatest listeners, we are a global top 10% podcast. You can reach us as usual at bufnagle.com. Remember, share the love, share the buff, give us a 5-star review, hit subscribe or like or smiley stars, whatever you got on your podcast machine. Hit that button to make my life better, because that will make your life better. Remember to tell a friend to listen, and you will both get a free episode. And somewhere buried in the show notes, if you go looking, you will find a link to buy me a coffee. And that will be a wonderful thing to, keep all this Buffnagle good stuff on the air, as they say. Today it's one of those great days where we have a big brain smart head on. I have been in contact with a young man named Derek Hales, who runs naplab.com, a company that tests mattresses. Derek, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Well, it's great to have you, and I appreciate you submitting yourself to this highly risky career opportunity under the bright lights of the buff. But so you run a company that tests mattresses. Is that a decent summary?
Yep, that's exactly right. We're a platform that does objective and data-driven reviews on mattresses. Mattresses come in, we do our battery of tests, we collect our data, we analyze it, and we compare that data against everything we've tested to date, and then use it all to create a really dense but digestible review so that consumers can make a really informed and good decision for their next mattress purchase.
Well, I guess growing up, I'm thinking about this. When I was growing up, mattress tester internet site guy was not on the radar, anybody's radar, or something you can do. Is this like, how does one become a mattress tester at a place like NapLab?
Good question. To be fair, it wasn't on my radar either. It was one of those things where we just sort of accidentally fell into it. It really kind of begins when I got married. My wife and I got married in 2014. We very quickly needed a new bed. We were sleeping on my full mattress that I had just from high school. So we did sort of the whole in-store shopping experience. We went into stores. We tried beds. We found ones we liked, but of course the stuff we liked was $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, and we're a newly married couple, pretty frugal, no real money to speak of. It just couldn't pull the trigger. And so we ended up taking a chance on these new online beds. There were a couple of companies. We ordered one for $600 for a queen. It didn't work out for us. It wasn't a great fit, but didn't feel great. But it had a great return policy, so we returned it. We tried another online bed. It was a little bit better, something we felt like we could sleep on long term. And really just like a kind of a weekend fun hobby project. I just wanted to build a website. And so I said, I'm going to review these two beds. I'm going to compare them. I'm going to put up my shopping notes of what I had in store. Just sort of up on a website, just kind of for fun. I didn't really think anybody would care or be all that interested, but I was happily incorrect. Within just a few weeks, we had a growing substantial amount of traffic. People were asking us to review more stuff, so I got some more mattresses, reviewed a few more before 2014 was out. And by February 2015, 6 months in, I was able to leave my full-time job. The site was making a decent amount of money, and I said, "All right, so begins my career as a mattress tester."
So you said within about 6, you were doing some other work before that. What were you?
Yeah,
what's your background in?
So I started my career working at a marketing agency. So I was doing enterprise SEO for sort of big Fortune 100 type clients. So I did that straight out of college, and I worked there for 4 years.
And your background is in what then out of college? Is it in marketing?
My degree is in business with a major in marketing, but I would say my background is in SEO, website development, and digital marketing.
So it wasn't that big a deal for you to to do your own website thing. It wasn't just like back in the day when I was those of you who are out there listening to the Buff, you cannot see Derek here. His handsome mug here on my screen he's a young man, and he is certainly he's not the same age as the Buff team here, most of the Buff team. But when we started with the internet, having a website, just having your own site was a thing, but that's got to be something that that wasn't a big deal for you. What about the step into, so you're testing a mattress, right? You get a mattress, you think you got to figure out how to test it. You got to compare it to some other mattresses, and you're making an evaluation of someone's product at this point. How did you was there a little bit of trepidation? I'm going to say what I think about this mattress, but then next thing you know, you have tested lots of mattresses, and you're putting other people's livelihood on the line with that. Is that how do you know you're doing a good job doing that? And how have you changed from when you started testing mattresses to where you're on now? What's that progress been like for a business guy?
Yeah. So the question, how do I know if I'm doing a good job?
Yeah.
I think our readers, our viewers those are my customers. Those are the people I need to make happy. And if I'm not making them happy, I'm doing a bad job. And so when I get good comments, good emails, good feedback from my viewers and my readers, I'm doing a good job. And so in my view, it's to serve my audience. And I can do that by creating the most objective, honest, transparent, deep, dense, helpful review possible. And so sometimes that means I have to say things that mattress brands would rather I not say.
Sure.
But that has to be said in order to create, an honest and helpful review. Anything where I'm trying to protect, the feelings or interests of a particular brand are not in the interest of my readers and viewers. And so my customer, if you will, is my reader and viewer. And so I need to make them happy. And I know I'm making them happy if I'm getting good feedback, more views, people, sending us positive experiences about, the mattress they bought, the feedback that we provided, the reviews that they read. I'm sorry. And then you had a second part question there.
Well, let me ask this question, because we're talking a lot about mattresses, and these are things that a lot of us will spend a third of our life on this thing. And so the modern mattress is this enigma to a lot of people, with springs and foam and cotton and puffy stuff, and they're heavy and they're expensive, but they're important. Where do we? So how many different? What are my options for a mattress? You talked about getting them online or going to a mattress store. We've all been to mattress stores and to home things. What am I buying? What is the whole concept of the mattress that makes them so complicated? Why can't I just sleep on the floor?
Well, they don't need to be complicated. In the U.S., I think mattress brands and companies have historically, and certainly in the last 30 years, have done a great job of making it intentionally complicated and confusing, trying to basically kind of hold all the cards as far as the information about what's exactly in that mattress, what the coils are made of, what the foams are made of, what types of foam, how thick everything is, how long that's going to last. They have gone out of their way to make the process harder. So for a typical consumer that's shopping, whether you're doing in-store or online, it can be really hard to know what's in it. Even two mattresses that look very similar can be very different. And so it's a big challenge. And consumers have a number of different locations. You have, I would say, sort of a myriad of sort of in-store experiences. You sort of have the mattress specialty store that only is doing mattresses.
Right.
You have more traditional department stores that have a wider range of goods. You have even warehouse stores like Costco and Sam's Club, where they have their mattress line. Mm-hmm. And then even, big retailers like Target and Walmart, they have their mattresses. A lot of these companies will have similar mattresses from the same brands, but the SKUs are always a little bit different. The price points are all a little bit different. You'll see, a certain brand at Walmart that's also at Target, that's also at Sam's Club, that's also at Macy's, that's also online, and the prices and the names are a little bit different. And so it's really hard to know if you're even comparing the same mattress.
Right.
And I think that gets into kind of the intentional asymmetric information that mattress companies have gone about creating in the last 30 years in the United States. because they don't want consumers to be informed. They want this to be a purchase that is, sort of more based on vibes and what sort of feels good and feels right kind of in that moment. And that's not always what's best for consumers.
So, we've been married 30. I never know what year it is right now. So it's 30 plus years. And we've had a number of mattresses over that time frame. And I'm never certain if this is a good mattress or a bad mattress or how to really evaluate that. And people say, well, how do you sleep? And I'm like, well, I don't sleep very well. And sometimes my shoulder hurts. And, are you a back sleeper or a side sleeper? And I'm like, yes. And so there's a lot of different things. I have trouble. I don't understand how someone can just lie down on a mattress and try to determine in 45 seconds they're at a store whether or not this is a good feel for me. So what should the consumer do to get a good mattress? Well, actually, let's say this: to be comfortable with the purchase, right? So when you get home, you're like, yeah, this is a good mattress. How do we do this? Because I hear a lot of stuff. A lot of shows have advertisements that are mattress companies. You can get one that comes in a box, and you unpack the box and duck out of the way, and it explodes in your room, right? They're very heavy. They're very expensive. You have to, it feels almost worse than buying a car.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's hard. For a lot of consumers, just going in and laying on a bed for 5 minutes and then, buying a $2,000 to $5,000 thing, that's just a gamble, as much as sort of buying a mattress online can be in many cases as well. So to the extent you can, you want to try to identify what you think is going to work best for your body. And so some of the big things that I try and think about, and I try to talk my readers and viewers through is, okay, well, what firmness do you like? Do you like soft? Do you like medium? Do you like firm? Not sure? Then the answer is probably medium firm. The vast majority of sleepers need a medium to medium firm. Very few people need firm. Very few people need soft. So that's sort of number one. Number two, what types of materials do you like? Sort of the big categories, or as I think about them, is sort of memory foam, latex foam, and coils. Those are sort of the big sort of material categories. There's a lot of nuance in between them. But if you are someone that likes lots of body contouring hug, an exact and precise contour around the shape of your body, that's going to be a memory foam. If you're somebody that wants something with a more relaxed hug and an emphasis on natural organic materials, that's going to be latex. If you want a more traditional bed, that's going to be more of your coil mattresses. So think about the types of beds you've slept on in the past, whether it's long-term use or something you tried at a family member's house or at a hotel, and that can help tell you what type of foam is going to work best for you, what type of materials. I think for most people, just like in the case of firmness, that medium firm is ideal. Most people need something with a sort of mix of feel. And for most, that's going to be a hybrid mattress that uses one or more types of foam on top of a pocketed coil unit.
Okay, so let me ask about that, because like this whole concept, I always found it odd when I was a little kid to find out that there were big pieces of metal springs inside the mattress, and it just seems to me like I guess my perception as a child was that this should be like, it should like mimic I don't know, a bed of hay that a horse lies on or something, so something to keep me a little bit warm, keep me off the ground. A little bit soft is better than a little bit hard. I remember one of the best night's sleeps I ever had, and it's very, very rare that I have a good night's sleep, was on a futon, which was just something soft on a floor. And it might have been that I was exhaustedly tired that night, or I was in a place of comfort and low stress. But so those are, I guess I'm trying to figure out, how did the beds get this complicated with these immense engineering constructions when it's really just a pad to lie on? Am I overthinking this, or how did it get this way?
No, and I think this comes back to sort of an intentional play by the sort of mattress industry, especially in the US in the last 30 years, to make things more complex and to make things more expensive. Things that are more complex with sort of crazier materials inside naturally sort of attract a higher price point. And when brands can sort of really tell a story of like all of the cooling features or the sleep tech and this and that, again, that can increase the price. So when some of these bigger companies, especially the public sleep mattress companies in the US, have a real interest in making sure consumers are spending as much money as possible. So I think that's sort of the short answer on why we sort of saw this play in the US especially. But I think you're right. You do not need a super complicated mattress to get a great night's sleep. For some people like yourself, a futon on the floor may be just as effective as a $3,000 mattress. I think most people do better with a mattress that's in that $1,000 to $2,000 range. But the notion that we need to spend $5,000 to $10,000 on a bed, I think is just crazy. It's just something that I think is completely unnecessary for the vast majority of sleepers.
So when they do that, they're selling extra tech. What is it that what are they promoting with that? They talk a lot about cooling and memory. Like I never understood the concept of memory foam. I always imagined memory foam as you lie down on it and suddenly you remember where you left your keys. But I just I didn't. Where did these, and you talk about latex foam versus, I don't know, whatever else kinds of foams are. What if you are an all natural kind of person and you want a bed that's, I'm just going to use real in finger quotes here because, everything comes from the earth anyways, question of how it got there. But it seems to me like at some point, some of these modern foams might not be what you want. Some of it feels to me like it ought to be like, big bales of cotton inside a bag. Is that, what's out there for the natural people? And what are you getting when you buy the extra technology?
Sure. So on the natural side of things, we mostly have latex. In addition, we also have wool and cashmere and cotton. And many times they still are supported by coil unit. But latex is sort of the most sort of voluminous, soft, and yet still supportive and resilient material type. And I say that sort of compared to like cotton or wool or cashmere, which are very comfortable and yet they're very expensive. And to make an entire mattress out of wool is very expensive, as it requires so much to get like enough comfort. So latex ends up being sort of the go-to material for anybody that wants a more natural, organic type mattress.
Is latex considered natural, organic?
It is. So latex,
okay. Right.
As they harvest it for mattresses, basically there are latex rubber trees. They, stick a piece of metal in. Right. The sap drains off there, and they have a very sort of simple process to essentially whip that sap into a mold, and then it forms within a metal mold, becomes sort of a typical type of foam that you might see, and then they can slice that up and put that in mattresses.
Wow. Okay. They didn't. I guess I never thought about latex as a natural product, but yes. Okay, I see what you're saying now. So, and you can't make them out of wool. You're saying that's just too expensive?
You can. Some do. It's very, very niche, even within the world of sort of natural mattresses. I've tested one good bed, but expensive, and in my view, sort of limited in its comfort and support. There's just only so much stacks of wool can do. Again, you just need so much of it to be really effective. So while you do see wool, cashmere, and cotton often used in addition to latex and or latex plus coils ends up being the sort of the bulk of the material in most natural and organic mattresses.
Right. So your basic, I'm going to call it a coil mattress, is a series of, I'm going to call them vertical springs. These the coiled up springs, and they sit within a frame, right? Typically wood or metal, right? And then they put. How is this thing put together, and how does it support me without getting me injured?
Yeah. So. We don't see really rigid metal or wooden frames used in the concept of the mattress anymore. What we have now predominantly are pocketed coils, which just means an individual coil that is wrapped in fabric. And that individual coil is aligned with other individual coils to form a row, to form a massive unit of coils. And so those coils are basically encased in sort of a fabric both on top and bottom and then around the individual coil. That helps to reduce motion transfer. It also helps to make sure the coil unit is less noisy. And then they simply glue sheets of foam on top of that, and then they cover the entire thing in some type of cover. Sometimes it's just a thin knit cover. Sometimes it's a cover with varying layers of upholstery. So we might have a quilted cover on top. You might have a pillow top cover on top. Again, just depends on the design. There are pros and cons to each, but that is sort of the basic idea of most modern mattresses. The specific type of coil, the specific type of foam, whether or not there are more than one foam layers on top, and then the cover all then change the way that the mattress will feel.
So this coil, this spring that sits, these springs that are in these, would you call them, fabric, wrapped in a fabric tube?
Yes, exactly. Wrapped in a thin fabric layer around each individual coil.
So I'm thinking about the compressive force of an individual spring, and there are a lot of them there, which holds you up pretty well, I guess. I'm just like, how do you I guess I always think about why do I not get poked? But the idea is like, first of all, this is not pointy at the top. They have it smoothed off, right? It rounds off the top. And then like you said, they have a lot of foam on top of that thing, or at least some foam, and then fabric and some more pillowy stuff. Okay, so that's a coil mattress, and the other ones are just kinds of foam that it's just air bubbles trapped in some sort of elastic kind of stuff, and that just holds you up that way. Then we're spending thousands of dollars for those things.
Yeah, I mean the science of foams is really interesting, and it's something where I think we're seeing the greatest sort of material science development in the world of mattresses. But you're right, it is just sort of a little. It's layers with air bubbles in them, but it's a lot more than that. You have what becomes we have this essentially polyurethane foam chemicals mixed with other materials that are then poured out in a massive line to create buns of foam. I mean buns. We're talking, a foam
buns. Buns of foam.
Buns. That's what the industry calls them.
Okay.
And so when they're poured out onto a foam line, the line can be over 100 feet long, and that bun of foam can be 12 feet tall. And
wait. I'm sorry. This is exactly where we want to go now. So have you seen these things? So where do they manufacture this stuff?
All over the U.S., but also overseas
really?
as well. But a lot of the manufacturing for mattresses is done in the U.S. And so I've been to a couple of different manufacturers.
So you've been in the room where this hot goo pours out into this thing and slowly solidifies and levels out and it comes down a line like a big glacier, and then they slice off am I seeing this right?
No, you're exactly right. So the process really kind of begins outside. Tanker trucks show up and they're unloading, tens of thousands of gallons
of toxic goo,
basically, petroleum type products, other chemicals. Those are ingested into, massive tanks that spin and mix the different foam types that they want to pour. Those are then, piped over essentially to a massive extruder, and that just pours out, the goo, as you say, and it comes down and it's relatively thin, right? But then we're having an exothermic reaction that's slowly over time, you see this thin layer of liquidish, viscous goo rising. And so within a few moments, it's a few inches. Within a few minutes, it's a couple feet. But by the time it gets to the end of it, we have a gigantic bread roll of foam, essentially, that is over 100 feet long and is 12 feet tall.
And they have special saws then to cut this stuff, and right?
Yep. Well, next phase, it heads over into basically a curing warehouse, hundreds of thousands of square feet, where it is just sitting there, basically cooling down. Usually it takes, a week or so. And then once it's cooled, it's, railed back into the warehouse.
Wait. Did you just say it takes a couple weeks to cool?
I'll have to double check my math on that, but depending on the phone, yeah. I mean, the amount of,
of energy that's being released and the energy gets stuck in there and takes a while to get dissipated out through there.
Yes.
So this gets really hot then, I would guess.
The initial thing is hot. I mean, it comes out steaming, and it's steaming for many minutes, but it does cool down rapidly. Most of the curing period is just waiting for the off-gassing to finish. So we have,
and it sends off all sorts of toxic things, right? It's just...
Yeah, it's basically volatile organic compounds are being released from the buns, and so it's made with chemicals. Chemicals are trapped during the manufacturing process. So it's sitting in the warehouse for, a period of weeks so that it can release the great bulk of those before it gets sliced up and put into a mattress.
Okay. So foam then is it's a matrix of polymer, organic things stuck together with bubbles of some kind of gas stuck in there. Are these, like, if this thing is off-gassing bad gases, then some of those gases are in those bubbles. So when the mattress breaks down, when you sit on it and you go up and down on it every time, and you sit on it over the course of a decade or so, and these things lose their rigidity, Are they off-gassing those same chemicals?
Most of the off-gassing appears to occur during the first several weeks of mattress. So
Okay.
most mattresses are not going to sort of indefinitely release. And so whenever you get a new mattress, there usually is a strong odor for the first
Yeah.
week or so.
Yeah.
Based on everything we've tested, the average is about a week. Some I've tested have gone for months and they keep selling. Some arrive and they have practically no smell. So it really depends
Wow.
on the
Okay.
particular
Yeah.
type of foam and the manufacturer. But usually that smell is only going to be like lasting around a week or so. And so it's not something you're going to have to deal with indefinitely.
It's not. These aren't toxic chemicals, are they?
I mean, they are VOCs. They're
Okay.
volatile organic compounds.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
I've not seen any sort of, university sort of empirical studies sort of testing sort of the danger of VOCs coming off mattresses. The industry believes that these are not a tremendous danger to health, and most sort of watchdog kind of groups in the U.S. that monitor these sort of things don't seem to be overly concerned. But some consumers,
Yeah, I'm sure there are. Yep.
are very concerned, and
Yeah,
they will
yeah.
only sleep on natural mattresses and latex mattresses because they view those as a safer alternative. And in some ways, they are.
Wow.
And so I think this is something I would love to see again, like a university actually study this. But again, it would be really tough to study, I think, because of the extreme variance in mattress manufacturing and the types of foams. I've ordered foams from overseas that are like, wow, this is horrifically smelly and feels very dangerous to
Sure.
breathe in. And then others that come in, elsewhere, I'm like, there's, a slight odor here, but I'm not getting anything else. And so the amount of VOCs coming off can vary dramatically. And then one sort of last sort of comment here. In the U.S., we have CertiPure, which is basically a certification program for foams that says it's not been made with mercury and formaldehyde and ozone depleters and all these really bad things that once upon a time were still in our mattresses. Now, those standards are not followed all over the world. So if you are looking for a new mattress, that feels sort of like the bare minimum that should be required. Avoiding sort of the most toxic chemicals is we can at least accomplish that much. And that will, I think, dramatically reduce sort of the risk profile of for consumers.
Wow. Okay, this is incredible. So you one of the, I guess you mentioned that you get some of these mattresses to test. So let's talk about how you have built what I'll consider a large database of mattress information. You could, maybe you could make a statement. You have the world's largest collection of mattress data or something like that. But you have a big collection of mattresses that you have tested, and you've measured things. I would assume like does it smell bad, and how long does it take to off gas, and all that kinds of things. But you've also measured some other physical like what's the process? Like if Bufnagle wants to come out with Bufnagle mattresses, and we think it's the great mattress, and we send it to you, how does it work? Do we send it to you and say, please test our mattress, or would you reach out and say, we would like to test your mattress, or how does that go? And then what do you do when you do the testing?
So my focus is always, mission one on my viewers and my readers. So we want to review mattresses that are the most popular. So if you were a brand new company and you weren't very popular, we probably wouldn't review it yet. But as interest in the product grew, we would then review it. And whether you sent it to us or we purchased it, we're always just trying to acquire things that are of interest to our audience. So that's sort of step one. Once the mattress actually gets here, we begin our process. So we open that up. It sits for at least 24 hours before we begin testing. We want to make sure it's able to sort of stabilize, decompress if it was like rolled up in a box. And then we begin our testing process, which is essentially we have a battery of objective and data-driven tests. We have different tools and measurement devices that we use on the mattress to measure how cool it is. So we use our thermal camera. Or to measure motion transfer, we use an accelerometer on one side of the mattress, and we drop a medicine ball on the other side to see exactly how much energy is coming across that mattress. To measure the material recovery speeds, like how quick it rebounds back to shape, we'll put a medicine ball on there and record the footage with a high FPS camera to see exactly how long it takes to return and recover to its original shape in terms of seconds. And so we have this battery of tests. We're collecting all of these data points. That goes into our gigantic sort of database that we then use to score and analyze the mattress. And the database is really everything, because one mattress by itself with the data isn't super valuable. But when I can compare that mattress data to 400 others, I can say, okay, this mattress is in the top 10% of cooling. It's in the top 20% for motion transfer, but it's in the bottom, 80% for sex performance, or it's in the bottom, 1% for edge support. The things that, consumers care about when they're shopping for a mattress, and that lets us create, I think, really some of the most high impact and helpful reviews possible in the world of mattresses.
So you do the testing on this stuff, and you've developed all these tests over the years. Do you? So when you first started, you got your first mattress, like you told the little story, and then you sent it back, and you got the second mattress. At that point, you didn't have all these tests. At some point, you developed these tests over time. How long has the test protocol been, I guess, mostly standardized? Are you still tweaking that a little bit? Are you adding new things, or what? How's that change?
So our test protocol has been more or less consistent since 2021. We have had the same sort of battery of tests. Now, we have worked to refine and improve those tests over time. We're always looking for ways that we can do things bigger and better, but we have had a consistent battery of 10 objective and data-driven tests, the same 10 tests since 2021.
Wow. Okay. All right. And so your business practice, you acquire these mattresses, like you said, you either purchase them or they are sent to you, or you ask for them, or they send them to you, or however that works. But you don't sell your information. You are an ad driven business. Is that how you work? How do you make your money?
Sure. So the vast majority of our revenue comes from referral links. So somebody comes in, reads a review, they like that mattress, they click a link, they go over, they buy the mattress. The Nap Lab will earn a small commission on that sale. We also make a very small amount via donations and a very small amount via YouTube ads. But that's it as far as monetization. In my view, the referral links are the best way for us to monetize, because we can have referral links for essentially every brand that we test. That way, no matter what you buy, we've got a referral link for you, and we're not, I think when you start, accepting advertisements and sponsorships, it gets really messy in the world of reviews, because then you're having to, play nice with your advertisers that may also be the people that you're reviewing. And so we really try to, again, keep the sort of revenue model as clean as possible, so that we can stay focused on our primary mission, which is just delivering the most honest, transparent, high impact review possible.
Well, all right. So that's great to hear, and I'm sure that is makes some companies very happy and makes other companies not quite as happy. So what have you? I mean, obviously, this is very nice. It's great to talk to you about this, because I can hear in the things that you're saying and the way that you say them that you've really, I guess, internalized the science here. I mean, you understand. I mean, you went to see the mattresses get manufactured. I mean, that's a thing that speaks to me. It speaks really highly of your knowledge level of what's going on here. If I have to get a mattress someday before I die, then I will have to go to the Nap Lab people and see what you have to say about these things. You're a business major guy. What have you learned about sleep and about rest? Is there a big aha that you've hit? Is there a thing that what's the elevator speech on what you should know about sleep and about rest, and how mattresses get you there or keep you from getting there?
I think when it comes to the sleep and rest, and I may be sort of preaching to the choir to some of your listeners, but I would argue that sleep is the most important things that we can do for our bodies and health. More important than exercise, more important than what you eat, more important than everything else. If you are sleeping well, you are giving your body the energy and the moment to heal itself, to recover physically, mentally, emotionally. And if you're not, those things are going to break down. There have just been countless studies in this area. I believe December 8th, I forget the journal that released it, but a major journal released a study that basically says this exact same thing, that aside from not smoking, sleep is the single most important thing that you can do for your health. And so, for me personally, it's been, I don't know, a long time coming as somebody who was a a chronic night owl, sort of a natural night owl for many years. I like staying up late and waking up late. I have, still stay up later than probably many people, but trying to be really consistent with the schedule. I go to bed at the same time. I wake up at the same time. I sleep roughly the same hours. I don't really sleep in a whole lot on the weekends. And it's just about, again, keeping my body and my circadian rhythm in a natural rhythm in which I can easily go to sleep and stay asleep so that my body can heal itself and do the things that sleep provides to recovery.
Well, that's great to hear. That's yeah, you are kind of speaking to the choir on that one, but that's nice to know that. And you figured that out through all the research you've done. Is that a thing that has come to you?
I mean, I'm not a sleep researcher, but I am sort of sleep adjacent in the world of mattresses. Yeah. So I naturally see a lot of things related to sleep. And so I'm always sort of interested at what, universities and clinicians are looking at in the world of sleep and what they're finding. It's all the same stuff, just again and again in more rigorous format. You need to sleep. Most adults should sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. When you sleep, your body can heal itself. When you don't, things start falling apart. So I think it is should be paramount to every human to make sure you're getting good sleep each night.
Wonderful. You have a company that you work with. I mean, you're the face of the company, but you have a number of people that I saw on the website and I've interacted with over emails. So how big is this? Is the group, and how has that business growth taken place over the last, it's probably about a decade, 11 years, I think you said, right?
Yeah, we're at 11 years. So currently we have 6 full-time employees in the U.S., and then we have 2 offshore contractors that help us with video editing. So our team started out as just myself. So in 2014, I started the business alone, and I was mostly alone for that first year. At the end of a year, we were doing well enough and getting big enough that I was able to hire my first employee. At the end of year 2, we hired our third employee, and we stayed a 3-person team for a long time. And it wasn't until 2022, I believe, that we added a fourth, and then we basically added one each year. And so we're up to 6 of us now. And so it's been really interesting. And I've had to sort of learn a lot and kind of how to run a business when you're a 1-person or even a 2-person team. It's pretty easy. But as we have gotten bigger, we've really had to find ways to stay efficient, to collaborate together. We mostly work remote. There's just a few of us here that are in the Phoenix Scottsdale area. And so that's been a big challenge. And perhaps the biggest challenge is just, transitioning from a 1-person team to a multi-person team where I sort of built everything around me. And so I am naturally the bottleneck for much of our team. And so I'm doing everything within my power to remove myself as the bottleneck so that we can, do more reviews and content and videos and social and all the fun stuff that we want to do sort of at scale. And that I can have my inputs and help make it an amazing addition to NapLab, but also just get out of the way of the company's growth.
So do you have an unpopular opinion about mattresses out there somewhere? Is there a hill you're willing to die on that you've come to being the mattress tester, big brain smart head that you are?
I don't know how unpopular it is, but I will die on the hill that you do not need to spend thousands of dollars to get a quality mattress. I think what the industry has done in the U.S. in the last 30 years is it's disgusting in my view. This notion that you need to spend $5,000 to $10,000 and that's the only bed that could possibly deliver sleep. It's just not correct. You need to spend a decent amount of money. I would say $1,000 to $2,000 for a queen is the sweet spot for most people in the U.S. There are some exceptions to that, but I will die on the hill. You do not need to spend thousands of dollars to get a quality mattress that will deliver good sleep.
Wonderful. All right, we're gonna wrap this up here. Future plans for the company?
We're always looking at sort of, what we can maybe test and review next. We've looked at sort of, sheets and pillows and sleep tech and frames and foundations. I think all that stuff is really cool and interesting. But our immediate plans is just continue to do bigger and better mattress reviews. That's our bread and butter. That's what we do best. And that's the area that we want to just try and deliver the highest quality review that we possibly can. So we've got a lot left to do in the next, at least couple years on that front, sort of iteratively improving and creating what I think is the kind of the perfect mattress review. We've got one thing I'm really excited about coming out soon. we're starting durability testing. And so mattress manufacturers have always had this big machine. Basically, it's a giant rolling pin that rolls back across the mattress, tests durability in an accelerated method. We have one of these machines now. We're still getting it set up and fine-tuning the settings, but very soon we're going to be able to start durability testing and share that information with our readers and our viewers. And I think it's just going to be really interesting to see sort of the cold light of day on mattresses that are $100 and $1,000 and $10,000, and we'll see, is that $10,000 mattress actually better than a $1,000 bed or a $2,000 bed? I suspect not a whole lot better, if at all, but we'll have the objective hard data to say once and for all whether or not it is.
All right. And so these old mattresses, when you test them, what do you stick them out in the back? If you were living in some of these, how do I say it? If you were not a good neighbor, you would just toss them out back behind the shop there and let them rot. But what do you do with the old mattresses? You review lots of them. Where do they go?
Virtually every mattress we review gets donated to a local charity.
Wonderful.
So
okay.
We aren't too destructive with the mattresses. We'll see how destructive the durability testing is. I suspect some of the ones at the end of that will probably just need to go in the trash, and some of them will probably still be in good shape. So we have a local charity support. They do amazing work, and so everything that we test and review gets to them.
Okay, I still have one big question. I keep thinking these questions, and I'm watching my clock go. So how big is the U.S. and the global mattress market? Do you have any idea of how much, of what kind of numbers these guys report? The
U.S. industry is something like $18 billion a year, and I believe the global industry is something like $37 billion.
Wow.
Okay, in annual revenue.
And those are pretty big numbers.
Yeah, it's a good size industry. And I think if ever there was a case to show just how overpriced mattresses have become in the U.S., is the fact that the U.S. represents 18% or 50% of the total
mattress budget.
Like that's insane.
All right, I hear you. Okay, last question. We tend to ask our big brain smart heads this about what do you want to tell our listeners about seeking the good, living virtuously, and pursuing the adventure of life? What have you learned in your own pathway that you would like to share in that big realm?
That's a big question. I'll answer it two parts. Maybe one kind of like personally for me, what I've learned sort of seeking the big adventure. Go for the stuff you want to. Go for the stuff that excites you, and do it while you have the energy and the time to do so. This life is just too short to sit around wondering sort of what if. And I've had so many great entrepreneurs come to me over the years looking for advice and want to know how I did this and that, and they have an idea and they want to try this thing, and they can just never get off the ground. And I would just encourage you, if that's you, just get started. You are going to make mistakes. You're going to mess stuff up. That's okay. I did as well. I make mistakes every day, and I'm going to continue making mistakes. But I think there's just so much value in to learn by doing. And even if you don't have your idea perfectly formed, you don't have everything figured out, that's okay. Just get started, make some mistakes, and just do the things that excite you while you have the time to do it.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. Derek Hales, big brain smart head, who runs naplab.com and all associated other activities that they do. Derek, it was great having you on today.
Hey, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, the rest of you out there, remember, get a good night's sleep, seek the good, live virtuously, and flourish, and enjoy the adventure of life.
It's going to be a great day.